The Polikarpov Po-2 served as a general-purpose Soviet biplane, nicknamed Kukuruznik for maize, thus maize duster or crop duster. NATO reporting name Mule. The reliable, uncomplicated concept of the Po-2's design made it an ideal training aircraft, as well as doubling as a low-cost ground attack, aerial reconnaissance, psychological warfare and liaison aircraft during war. Proved to be one of the most versatile light combat types to be built in the Soviet Union. As of 1978 it remained in production for a longer period of time than any other Soviet-era aircraft. It is one of the most produced aircraft, and may be the most produced biplane with production possibly as high as 30,000 Po-2s built between 1928 and 1959. However, production figures for Polikarpov Po-2 and Po-2 bombers and trainers combined are between 20,000 and 30,000, with production ending as early as 1952. Correct figures are hard to come by since low-rate production by small repair shops and air clubs likely continued until 1959. Design and development. The aircraft was designed by Nikolai Polikarpov to replace the U-1 trainer, itself known as Avrushka to the Soviets. Its name was changed to Po-2 in 1944, after Polikarpov's death, according to the new Soviet naming system, usually using the first two letters of the designer's family name, or the design bureau that created it. The prototype of the U-2, powered by a 74 kW Shvetsov M11 air-cooled 5-cylinder radial engine, first flew on the 7th of January 1928, piloted by M. Gromov. Aircraft from the pre-production series were tested at the end of 1928 and serial production started in 1929 in factory number 23 in Leningrad. Production in the Soviet Union ended in 1953, but license-built CSS-13 were still produced in Poland until 1959. Operational history. For the beginning, the U-2 became the basic Soviet civil and military trainer aircraft, mass-produced in a Red Flyer factory near Moscow. It was also used for transport, and as a military liaison aircraft, due to its SDOL capabilities. Also from the beginning it was produced in an agricultural aircraft variant, what earned it its nickname Kukuruznik. Although entirely outclassed by contemporary aircraft, the Kukuruznik served extensively on the Eastern Front in World War II, primarily as a liaison, medevac and general supply aircraft. It was especially useful for supplying Soviet partisans behind the front line. Manufacturing of the Po-2 in the USSR ceased in 1949, but until 1959 a number were assembled in Aeroflot repair workshops. The first trials of arming the aircraft with bombs took place in 1941. During the defense of Odessa in September 1941, the U-2 was used as a reconnaissance aircraft and as a light, short-range bomber. The bombs, dropped from a civil aircraft piloted by PYOTRBEVZ, were the first to fall on enemy artillery positions. From 1942 it was adapted as a light night ground attack aircraft. Nikolai Polikarpov supported the project, and under his leadership, the U-2VS was created. This was a light night bomber, fitted with bomb carriers beneath the lower wing, to carry 50 or 100 kilograms bombs up to a total weight of 350 kilograms and armed with Shkassadar machine guns in the observer's cockpit. Wehrmacht troops nicknamed it "machine" for its rattling sound, and Finnish troops called it "Hermesaha" as the Soviets flew nocturnal missions at low altitudes. The engine had a very peculiar sound, which was described as nerve-wracking, therefore the name. Luftwaffe pilots were soon given special instructions for engaging these aircraft. The material effects of these missions may be regarded as minor, but the psychological effect on German troops was noticeable. They typically attacked by surprise in the middle of the night, denying German troops sleep and keeping them on the guard, contributing to the already high stress of combat on the Eastern Front. The usual tactic involved flying only a few meters above the ground, rising for the final approach, throttling back the engine and making a gliding bombing run, leaving the targeted troops with only the eerie whistling of the wind in the wings bracing wires as an indication of the impending attack. Luftwaffe fighters found it extremely hard to shoot down the Kukuruznik because of two main factors. The pilots flew at treetop level where they were hard to see or engage, and the stall speed of both the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and the Focke-Wulf Fw 190 was similar to the U-2's maximum speed, making it difficult for the fighters to keep a Po-2 in weapons range for an adequate period of time. The success of the Soviet night harassment units inspired the Luftwaffe to set up similar Sturmkampfstaffel harassment combat squadrons on the Eastern Front using their own obsolete 1930s-era open-cockpit biplane and parasol monoplane aircraft, eventually building up to larger Nachschlachtgruppe units of a few squadrons each. The U-2 became known as the aircraft used by the 588th Night Bomber Regiment, composed of an all-women pilot and ground crew complement. The unit was notorious for daring low-altitude night raids on German rear-area positions. Veteran pilots Ekaterina Arabova and Nadezhda Popova on one occasion flew 18 missions in a single night. The women pilots observed that the enemy suffered a further degree of demoralization simply due to their antagonists being female. As such, the pilots earned the nickname Night Witches. The unit earned numerous Hero of the Soviet Union citations and dozens of Order of the Red Banner medals. Most surviving pilots had flown nearly 1,000 combat missions by the end of the war and took part in the Battle of Berlin. The Polish Air Force used these slow and maneuverable aircraft for air reconnaissance and coin operations against UPA bands in mountainous area of Bishadi. Pilots and navigators were dispatched to look for concentrations of UPA forces and, if needed, engage them with machine guns and grenades. On several occasions, the UPA managed to bring down some of the Po-2s, but never captured or operated them. North Korean forces used the Po-2 in a similar role during the Korean War. A significant number of Po-2s were fielded by the Korean People's Air Force, inflicting serious damage during night raids on United Nations bases. During one such attack, a lone Po-2 attacked Pyongyang airfield in northwestern Korea, concentrating on the 8th Fighter Bomber Group's parking ramp. The Po-2 dropped a string of fragmentation bombs squarely across the group's lineup of P-51 Mustangs. 11 Mustangs were damaged, 3 so badly that they were destroyed when Pyongyang was abandoned several days later. On the 17th of June 1951, at 1:30 hours, Suwon Air Base was bombed by 2 Po-2s. Each biplane dropped a pair of fragmentation bombs. One scored a hit on the 802nd Engineer Aviation Battalion's motor pool, damaging some equipment. 2 bombs burst on the flight line of the 335th Fighter Interceptor Squadron. One F-86A Sabre was struck on the wing and began burning. The fire took hold, gutting the aircraft. prompt action by personnel who moved aircraft away from the burning Sabre, preventing further loss. Yet 8 other Sabres had been damaged in the brief attack, 4 seriously. One F-86 pilot was among the wounded. The North Koreans subsequently credited Lt. Lo Woon-young with this damaging attack. UN forces named the Po-2's nighttime appearance Bedcheck Charlie and had great difficulty in shooting it down, even though night fighters had radar as standard equipment in the 1950s. The wooden fabric construction of the Po-2 gave only a minimal radar echo, making it hard for an opposing fighter pilot to acquire his target. As Korean War U.S. veteran Leo Fournier remarked about Bedcheck Charlie in his memoirs, quote, "No one could get at him. He just flew too low and too slow." On 16 June 1953, a US MC-84 from VMC-1 piloted by Major George H. Linnemeyer and C.W.O. Vernon S. Kramer shot down a Soviet-built Polikarpov Po-2 biplane, the only documented Skyrider air victory of the war. The Po-2 was also the only biplane credited with a documented jet kill, as one Lockheed F-94 Starfire was lost while slowing down to 110 miles per hour, below its stall speed, during an intercept in order to engage the low-flying Po-2 variants. U-2 basic model, built in large numbers as a two-seat primary trainer. It was also built in many different versions, both as civil and military aircraft. The U-2 variants also included a light transport, utility, reconnaissance and training aircraft. Power plant was the M11 radial piston engine of 75 kilowatts. Later models were also equipped with uprated M11 engines of 111 kilowatts. Some aircraft were fitted with a rear closed cabin, others were fitted with sledges or floats. U-2 two-seat agricultural crop dusting aircraft, powered by an 86 kilowatts M11K radial piston engine. Later redesignated Po-2A after 1944. U-2AO two-seat agricultural aircraft. U-2AP agricultural aircraft, with a rear cab replaced with a container for 200 to 250 kilograms of chemicals. 1,235 were built in 1930 to 1940. U-2G. This experimental aircraft had all the controls linked to the control column. One aircraft only. U-2KL. 2 aircraft fitted with a bulged canopy over the rear cabin. U-2LSH. 2-seat ground attack close support aircraft. The aircraft were armed with one 7.62 mm Schkass machine gun in the rear cockpit. It could also carry up to 120 kilograms of bombs and 4 RS-82 rockets. Also known as the U-2VOM-1, U-2LPL, experimental prone pilot research aircraft. U-2M. This floatplane version was fitted with a large central float and 2 small stabilizing floats. Not built in large numbers. Also known as the Mu-2. U-2P. Floatplane version, built only in limited numbers, in several variants with different designations. U-2S. Air ambulance version, built from 1934. It could take a physician and an injured on a stretcher on a rear fuselage, under cover. Variant U-2S-1 from 1939 had a raised fuselage top upon the stretcher. From 1941 there were also used 2 containers for stretchers, that could be fitted over lower wings or 2 containers for 2 seating injured each, fitted under lower wings. U-2SS. Air ambulance aircraft. U-2SHS. Staff liaison version, built from 1943. It had a wider fuselage and a closed 4-place rear cab. U-2SP. Civil transport version, could carry 2 passengers in open individual cabs, built from 1933. Other roles included aerial survey and aerial photography. A total of 861 were built between 1934 and 1939. U-2SPL. This limousine version was fitted with rear cabin for 2 passengers. U-2UT, 2-seat training aircraft, powered by an 86 kW M11D radial piston engine. Built in limited numbers. U-2LNB, Soviet Air Force night attack version, built from 1942. Armed with one 7.62 mm Shkast plus up to 250 kilograms of bombs under the wings for land support. Earlier aircraft were converted to improvised bombers from 1941. U-2VS, 2-seat training and utility aircraft, later redesignated Po-2VS after 1944. U-2NAK, 2-seat night artillery observation, reconnaissance aircraft, built from 1943. U-3, improved flying training model, fitted a 149 kW 7-cylinder M48 radial engine. U-4, cleaned up version with slimmer fuselage, not built in large numbers. Po-2, post-war basic trainer variant. Po-2A, post-war agricultural variant. Po-2GN, voice from the sky, propaganda aircraft, fitted with a loudspeaker. Po-2L, limousine version with an enclosed passenger cabin. Po-2P, post-war floatplane version, built in small numbers. Po-2S, post-war air ambulance variant, with a closed rear cab. Po-2S1, post-war ambulance version, similar to the pre-war U-2S. Po-2S2, post-war ambulance version, powered by M11D radial piston engine. Po-2S3, post-war ambulance version, which had 2 underwing containers. Each one was designed to transport one stretcher patient. Also known as the Po-2SKF. Po-2SHS, staff communications aircraft, fitted with an enclosed cabin for the pilot and 2 or 3 passengers. Po-2SP, post-war aerial photography, geographic survey aircraft. RV-23. This floatplane version of the U-2 was built in 1937. It was used in a number of seaplane altitude record attempts. The RV-23 was powered by a 529 kW Wright R1820F3 Cyclone radial piston engine. CSS-13, Polish license version, built in Poland in WSK Okasi in WSK Mielec after World War II. CSSS-13, Polish ambulance version with a closed rear cabin cockpit and turn end ring. E-23, research version, built in the Soviet Union in 1934, for research into inverted flight. Operators. Albanian Air Force received 78 aircraft between 1950 to 1966 and operated them until 1985. Bulgarian Air Force 10 aircraft in 1949 to 1969. Civilian aviation. People's Republic of China, People's Liberation Army Air Force. Czechoslovakian Air Force designated as K-62. SLOV Air. Finland Finnish Air Force. France Free French Air Force operated Po-2S in the Normandy Niemen unit. Germany Luftwaffe operated captured aircraft. East Germany backed People's Police. East German Air Force. Sport and Technology Association. Hungary Hungarian Air Force. The Hungarian Sport Bureau operated some aircraft before the 1956 Hungarian Revolution. 3 confirmed were in Dunakezi, 1 confirmed in Kisipostag, Lauspathetlau, Mongolia. MIA Team Mongolian Airlines. Aviation of Mongolian People's Army. North Korea Korean People's Air Force. Poland Air Force of the Polish Army. Lot Polish Airlines, 5 Po-2 operated in 1945, 1946, 20 CSS-13 for aerospraying in 1953 to 1956. Aeroclub Polski, Polish Air Ambulance Service, Polish Navy, Romanian Air Force received 45 aircraft in 1949. Civilian aviation, Soviet Union, Soviet Air Force, Aeroflot, Oso-Aviakim, DOSAAF, Turkish Air League received 2 U-2s which were given to Turkey as a gift from Russia in 1933 on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the Turkish Republic. Yugoslavia SFR Yugoslav Air Force 120 aircraft in 1944 to 1959. 1st Transport Aviation Regiment, 1st Training Aviation Regiment, 2nd Training Aviation Regiment, 184th Light Night Bomber Aviation Regiment, Liaison Squadron of 1st Military District, Liaison Squadron of 3rd Military District, Liaison Squadron of 5th Military District, Liaison Squadron of 7th Military District, Liaison Squadron of 3rd Aviation Corps. Surviving aircraft. The Shuttleworth Collection's Po-2 GBSSY is now airworthy, making its first flight on January 10, 2011. A Po-2 flies with the Federation of Amateur Aviators of Russia, based at Tushino Airfield, Moscow. A Po-2 flies with the Kukuruznik Aeroclub at Myslinska Dobrava, near Slovenj-Gradec, Slovenia. A Po-2 of the Hungarian Museum of Transportation flies pleasure flights from Budaros Airfield, Hungary. The aircraft is operated by the Goldtimer Foundation. A Po-2 is part of the collection at Fantasy of Flight in Polk City, Florida, United States. A Po-2 in flyable condition is in the collection of the Military Aviation Museum in Virginia Beach, Virginia, United States. A Po-2 in flying condition is part of the Flying Heritage Collection, Everett, Washington. A Po-2 in flying condition is part of the Metadave Latch Foundation Collection, Mlada Boleslav, Czech Republic. A Po-2 has been restored to flying condition in Split, Croatia. Specifications. General characteristics: crew 1 pilot, instructor, capacity 1 passenger, student, length 8.17 meters, wingspan 11.40 meters, height 3.10 meters, wing area 33.2 square meters, empty weight 770 kilograms, loaded weight 1030 kilograms. Useful load 260 kilograms. Max takeoff weight 1350 kilograms. Power plant 1 times Schwitzov M11D 5-cylinder radial engine 93 kilowatts. Performance maximum speed 152 kilometers per hour. Cruise speed 110 kilometers per hour. Range 630 kilometers. Service ceiling 3000 meters. Rate of climb 2.78 meters per second. Wing loading 41 kilograms per square meter. Power mass 60 W per kilogram. Armament guns 17.62 times 54 mm Oshkas machine gun. Bombs 650 kilograms bombs.